We usually start with a half-hour sitting period. You can get yourself settled into your cushion or chair, a posture that feels suitable for sitting for half an hour. Just inviting a sense of relaxation through the body. Remembering that we're not demanding anything. We're just inviting an easeful existence, an easeful, embodied existence. And if we want to know what ease really feels like, we feel it in the body. And body and mind are always sympathetic. Not really two things, just this. And so a quality of ease in the body supports a quality of ease in the mind. A quality of ease in the mind supports a quality of ease in the body. Resting the awareness, resting in awareness, resting the attention right here with the body. Picking the most obvious, easiest, most accessible way to know you have a body. Perhaps it's the whole body just sitting. Or maybe it's just feeling the edges of the body. Or perhaps your training has brought you to a sense of the breath. Maybe there's that habit already to recognize how it feels, embodied, breathing. Just inviting attention to rest here. One place, the most accessible place. Inviting the mind to be simple. Just resting right here. No need to look for a better experience or to worry about what we think about this. A very simple way, just feeling. The movement of sensation. It feels like this to have a body. Not to be afraid of other experience, other body sensation, sound, emotion, thoughts. All of this is what it's like to be a human being. Another experience arises. Just connect with that for a moment. And lovingly return to that place we call home, our meditation anchor. Noticing the movement here. And even in the simplicity of this simple way to practice, there's much diversity. Changing experiences. Brand new moment. Again and again. Maybe we feel tingling or pulsing. Or the relative fullness. The relative contraction. Changing moment by moment. Mind can be interested in this simple and subtle knowing. And if there's any wanting or resisting, any emotion, any storytelling about how we are in relationship to this, any eye making, that gets to be included. Nothing has to be rejected. It's all a part of an ordinary human experience, an ordinary human life. And then when the time is right, just rest once again. Receiving the embodied expression of this, not demanding, remembering to be simple. We'll continue in silence now. A minute to stretch your legs if you'd like. Welcome, everybody. It's good to see so many of you here on a beautiful Sunday morning. I just feel like the beautiful temperature. Lisa and I were just talking about the competition. Do I go to common ground? Do I play in the sun? It's so beautiful out there. So really glad to see you all here. My name is Shelly Graf. I'm one of the guiding teachers here. I share that role with Mark, who is still on retreat for another month. So you'll have a few. I'll be back a couple times. And next week I'll be gone, but Ramesh Sairam will be here teaching this program. We're so fortunate to have a wonderful group of Dharma teachers to fill in. Maybe you know that too, but it's like just beautiful to hear different voices and different ways the Dharma moves through human beings. So if you get a chance to hear some of our other Dharma teachers, especially during this time, but you might go check them out on the calendar for the other programs that they lead to. So I am freshly back from leading a retreat in the upper Northwest for a group of young adults, 18 to 35-year-olds. And I always come back feeling inspired. Yeah, and a little like just inspired and full of faith. Just to see young people and their desire to live a good life and learn deeply about what it means to be a human being and to set those new skills in motion. There's 18-year-olds who are, just figuring things out and often very wiggly on these retreats. And then some of the elders, we call them, the 35-year-olds who have been coming to this particular retreat for many years, and they're about to age out. I've been leading this retreat for 11 years with Carrie Peterson. And they're a bit more settled, just like they evoke something that it's not that life is easy by any means, but that they've learned something about how to meet life on life's terms that feels, and that settledness kind of comes from that, right? So I think that's one of the great fruits of practice, is that if you've been on the path for a while, it's not that the mind necessarily is more pleasant or that the world behaves any better, right? It's just that we learn some skills to relate well to everything that we feel and think and see and know. So we can call it faith or resiliency or inspiration, that I always feel with like, oh yes, young people are doing it. And so I want to speak a little bit this morning about the three characteristics, and in my kind of circular way, we'll move around through them, and we may not get all the way through, but we'll see how far this goes and what we get to. And the three characteristics are, we may say, three insights, or really three perceptions. And they are the three deep truths of experience. And that is that the truth of dukkha, the truth of anicca, and the truth of anatta. And the truth of dukkha is the truth of stress, suffering. The truth of anicca is the truth of impermanence or change, or uncertainty and constancy. And the truth of anatta is the truth of conditionality or nature, we might say. Sometimes it's described as not self, but gets a little tricky. And what's interesting is that these three characteristics are characteristics of all experience, yeah. And they are ways in which the mind can be trained to perceive in a way that's aligned with the laws of nature. So they're not really, well, at least we can take impermanence, for example. It's not so much of a Buddhist teaching. I mean, it is a Buddhist teaching, but it's also just very commonsensical, right? And these are insights. And so although they may feel like, I don't know what all of this is all about, but we learn to perceive them in our daily lives and in our meditation practice. And when we come into relationship with the truth of the way it is, that settledness can just happen a little more naturally, not because it's easy or pleasant, but because there's some good feeling with being in alignment with the truth of reality. Right? And we start to see that it's not because of change, for example, that we struggle, but because there's some belief in the mind that this moment wasn't a representation of all that's changing. So it's not, we might say like, oh, it's tough because things change. Well, it's only tough because things change because we think things aren't already in motion, right? There's a little line that Gil Fronsdal, what did he say? That a way to describe these three characteristics are things change, that hurts, but don't take it personally. Things change, it hurts, but don't take it personally. And the way I would say that they're not three things, because it's really just this. And this moment is an expression of all of those particular characteristics, but it's actually just this that we're dealing with, right? It's like this right now, which is like a simplified way of saying this moment isn't personal. It's not your fault, right? It's not your problem. This anxiety is not my problem. It's just this. And this anxiety is even maybe hard to call it anxiety because once we take a look at it, it's all kinds of movable, interchangeable component parts, right? There's the activation and the external, the history of the way the nervous system responds to that, its thoughts and emotions, it's the burst of something, it's the dissipation of that, right? So it's just this. Yeah, it's all of that changing experience, but it's actually just this. And when there's resistance, and taking it personally, right, it feels stressful, right? Like, oh, now anxiety is my problem. I have to be a better person by somehow getting rid of it. Right? I have to learn how to train my nervous system to don't do what it does naturally, and that's respond like this. So that feels that's hard, right? When we feel like this, which belongs to nature, is a personal problem, right? So it's actually just this present moment experience, this natural arising of something, right? And we can say that's true both internally and externally. Tricky, but true. And that sort of stability, right, is like the mind gets less afraid of even those sticky places in our hearts where we are feeling, really taking this personally, right? Even that is less of a problem because the mind understands that as just this, right? Just this taking it personally, just this bearing down, right? Just this dukkha. One way to describe dukkha is the expression of being out of alignment with the laws of nature. Why does it hurt? It hurts because we're trying to own something that's not ours, right? We're appropriating what belongs to nature. That's why it hurts. It's out of alignment. It hurts because I lived with this idea that life was like this, and now it's like not like that. Missed all those moments of change, right? So that's why it hurts, this out of alignment. So that's the expression of dukkha. I heard dukkha also described as that which is hard to bear, right? And why is life hard to bear at moments? Because the heart is relating to whatever this moment is through a sense of it shouldn't be this way, right? That's why it's hard to bear. That's out of alignment with this understanding that everything is arising because of the causes and conditions that support its arising. There's this verse that I've been from the scriptures that it's been with me for a while now. I've been inspired by it. And some of these teachings from the suttas it's said that they comprise the whole path. So if you were to study something like this for your whole life, it could take you all the way to liberation. It's very deep, it's very layered. But I also find some of the lyrical ways in which the teachings are expressed, the poetry, to be really inspiring and sort of evocative of a sense of wonder or awe that we need to really we need to carry with us in order to understand something new. And so I'm going to read it to you. And I'm changing the pronouns here just to be more inclusive. This is from the Majjhima Nikaya, which is the Middle Link Discourses, and it's different ways of the scripture, what the Buddha said here it shows up in a few different places, few different suttas. Let not a person revive the past, or on the future build their hopes, for the past has been left behind, and the future has not been reached. Instead, with insight, let them see each presently arisen state. Let them know that and be sure of it, invincibly, unshakably. Today, the effort must be made. Tomorrow, death may come. Who knows? No bargain with mortality can keep him and his hordes away. But one who dwells thus ardently, relentlessly, by day, by night, it is them the peaceful sage has said, who has had a single excellent night. Yeah. And sometimes it's regarded as like an excellent day, or it's really, I think, as I was digging a little bit into the research about this passage, it seems like there were different reference points at the time of the Buddha and in India or in Asia where the Buddha was practicing. It's like perhaps a 24-hour period. Right? And maybe you recognize this passage that is a statement about the days and nights are relentlessly passing. How well am I spending my time? It's kind of a simplified version of that, right? And so there's a sense of when the heart can touch the truth of reality, it can sometimes be motivated, really motivated. A sense of urgency might arise. So I felt that. You just hear people, you hear all of us. There's a lot of difficult things happening in our world, and a lot of pain and a lot of fear. And it really can call a crisis, can call forward the heart to practice well. Yeah. So in this way, it's a different, Buddhism is a different way than feeling the sense of despair and hopelessness that comes with being in contact with our pain. It can actually bring with it that sense of urgency, like wow, how am I living right now? How well am I spending my time? How well am I taking care of this single excellent night? And these three characteristics or these three they're really insights. So not philosophies or intellectual understandings, although sometimes it seems for me that the bit of intellectual interest can call up some curiosity about how to take care of this one excellent night. So we have to be interested in our entry places so that the heart can learn that this is a training and that this mind can be trained. And the insight does arise in relationship to our present moment experience. So we could say present moment experience is like being in the middle of our life as it is and feeling what it's like to be a human being moment by moment. But even just this phrase, present moment awareness, which Mark uses a lot, of course, I've used too because I've been around him a lot. And what is present moment awareness? Even that can be a little confusing. Well, present moment awareness, we could say, is just this ever-changing expression of causes and conditions, like this ever-changing moment. So even the present moment is not what we sometimes not what we think it is, right? We think it's a thing that we can define and describe and like know it, you know? And once we know it, then we sort of feel safe. Oh, this is what it is. But as soon as I say even this is what it is, it's something new, right? So when we say present moment awareness, it's really just a nod to this particular coming together, this particular expression of experiences that are already in motion, right? In that way, life is really dynamic. Yeah. It's not pin downable. Yeah. It's a life in motion. And in that way, it's vulnerable, isn't it? It's vulnerable to feel into that. It's vulnerable to feel into that. My dog my elder four-legged dog, she's 16 and a half. She has a knee injury, so she's not able to take stairs right now. And we've been at this for a couple of months now, and things are improving a little bit for her quality of life. She can take short walks now. But I've been carrying her up and down the stairs for 2 months. And so we've got it, easy. I just scoop her up. She's small enough, carry her down the stairs. And I was away for this retreat and I came home and picked her up. And I felt like just that sensitivity of being on retreat, doing a lot of practice, and how I picked her up and held onto her tightly, as if it was a little bit, I felt this sense of like doing a little bit too much, right? Not that I was hurting her, but just I was almost holding on for dear life. Yeah. But there was a sense of like, I've got her right here, and anything can happen at any moment, which caused me to just loosen up my grip a bit. And it feels like something, that loosening up a grip. It doesn't feel easy to do, right? That I have to accept that, perhaps not everything is resolvable. Or perhaps that, that idea that something's going to get better or improve is just a misguided idea, right? Things do improve sometimes, but we can expect that, that improvement is always arising in relationship to a steady decline, right? And this is how it is with us in the world too, isn't it? Like we have this expectation of progress, like I'm gonna be okay now, and then tomorrow or next month or 2 years from now or 10 years from now, things are going to be a bit better for me or for us, right? The world, that there's some idea of who we are, and that's going to keep improving. And so that things are harder for a lot of people right now in the world is startling because of this misguided idea that things, we should improve on our current situation, keep improving on our current situation. And when we say, this is the present moment, it's not, the future only exists as an idea in our mind and the past only as a memory. But those memories are alive in the present moment and shaping our experience, right? The ideas we have about things. And so it's not that there is no truth to history, right? the way I scooped my dog up and held her, there's a muscle memory there of the last 2 months, right? So it's easy, and she understands it too, right? How I hold her in this moment really matters and is also informed by history, because the reverberations of the past are alive here and now. So it's not true that the history doesn't matter, and it's not true that the future doesn't matter. It matters, but the seeds we're planting now will inform what the reality of the next moment, right? And so if I grip her tightly now, what is that setting in motion for how I'm relating to mortality and life and death? I don't know if you've been following Joanna Macy's Caring Bridge site. Yeah, some of you. Nod if you know Joanna Macy. Not a lot of people. So I'll say a little bit. She is a wonderful, she passed away yesterday afternoon at 96. Yeah. She lived a very long life and she wrote 8 books, I believe, and was a student of deep ecology. You might, if you've heard anybody say the phrase, the work that reconnects, that's Joanna's work. And she's probably one of the, I think, foremost thinkers about sustainability and earth, climate, things kinds of things. She's really helped, I think, in her work, helped people reclaim a sense of grief, like some grief work on the way to resiliency. I think that's one of the great gifts of her scholarship. She's also super duper interesting. She held a bachelor's degree, and I was reading a little bit about her this morning. A bachelor's degree in biblical studies, I think, and a PhD in religion. She was a professor at a few different universities. She was a political analyst for the CIA at one time. One of her degrees is in political science. But one of the things so for the past 2 weeks, her family, her daughter largely, has been posting these messages on Caring Bridge for the wider community that are following along with her illness. And I've been just struck by kind of the beauty of the postings more than just the physical day-to-day, what's happening, although there's a little bit of that. There's just a little bit of that. And mostly about her breathing and when she was talking and when she stopped talking. But a lot of the images are of like altar images or of touching moments of a hand, touching Joanna's hand, and a lot of the posts are about how people are engaging the work that reconnects in this particular moment, which I've all found so I was like, oh, this is legacy, right? This is history in motion. Right? It's the beauty of the work and the influence of the interconnectedness that is alive here and now that calls us to see about this, right? Not just to look back and to grieve and to wonder, right? But actually for that to be alive here and now. How is the work that reconnects alive here and now? How is our understanding of interdependence alive right now, right? How do we want to live now? And there are lots of ways of like the mind cultivating the conditions for which insight arise. So it's not that we cultivate an understanding, really. It's that they're conditions we set in motion so that the insights arise naturally. So for the insight of impermanence to arise, that sense of it is evocative of that sense of vulnerability, right? And can lead to like misaligned or misguided ideas of hopelessness or something like this, or nihilistic views, right? But actually the support that allows the insight to arise is stability. So the stability of life and the stability of mind. And that insight can arise, simply. like the insight that this mind, this heart can learn something is a kind of insight, right? And then deeper version of insight is like an insight into anicca. Yeah. So Gil Fronsdal has this way of pointing to these three characteristics and the preparation or the supporting conditions that invite or allow the insight to arise. And so they're basically the three characteristics and their opposites. So we can support the conditions for impermanence to arise, anicca to arise, by taking care of our kind of mental health, our sense of stability in our lives the best we can for ourselves and for each other. Right? And the cultivation, what kind of cultivation for insight into dukkha is that sense of well-being or metta, right? When the heart lives through a capacity to be inclusive, that's the function of loving kindness. So the heart that abides in loving kindness then can welcome moments of dukkha and learn from them. Without that, dukkha feels unbearable. It's hard to bear, right? But it becomes bearable because of that quality of metta. It's like, oh, sweetie, this hurts, right? It's like only thing that makes sense when something's painful is to go, oh, this hurts. Yeah, that's present moment awareness. And for this quality of anatta or not self, it's not an insight. It's what the insight really is an understanding that this experience is empty of a me. This experience is arising because of conditionality. It's not that we need to walk around and say and figure out how we're not a person. That's not this, right? And it can tie us up in knots to go like, well, I'm a self, I'm not a self, am I a self, I'm not a self. It's not that. It's like this is empty of self, right? Right? This anxiety is an expression of causes and conditions. It's empty of a me that's making it happen. I mean, if I could make it not happen, I would have already done that, right? Or this breath is like this, not because it's my personal fault, but because of all of the internal and external conditions right now. How much sleep I had, whether or not I have asthma, right? How warm it is, how cool it is, right? The degree of emotional stability, right? That's like this right now. We can just say the breath is like this right now. The breath is empty of a sense of self. I mean, you know how frustrating it is probably to try to force the breath to be differently. The conditions can sometimes support the breath being differently when they're cultivated, right? Like a sense of relaxation can support a deepening of the breath. That's a cause and effect relationship, right? But the breath itself is empty of a self. It's only changes because we've cultivated that kind of stability by practicing in a particular way, by evoking something, by relaxing, right? And then that, in part, changes the breath, right? So, dukkha, well-being. Well-being is the preparation, like what we cultivate that supports arising of an insight into dukkha. Right? The sense of stability is what prepares the heart for an insight into anicca. And confidence is what supports the heart's insight into anatta. And even self-confidence. Surprising that self-confidence can be the ground of preparation for an insight into not self. Yeah. But in a moment of difficulty, when the world feels oppressive, when our lives feel very challenged, and sometimes we don't even know why, like our interpersonal challenges, they just feel confusing. Like, why am I feeling like this right now? You ever have that sense? Why life is okay for me right now, and yet I feel like this, right? I feel not okay. Yeah. It's like points to uh, how interconnected the conditions are that support the way it is right now. And one of the ways to start exploring how it actually is and new ways to relate to life is through that sense of wonder and awe. Like we have to have a sense of possibilities, right? A sense of creativity. One of the young people in the retreat said to me at the end that they've been on several retreats. I know them pretty well. And that they often go home and feel this like crazy creativity, right? And they wanted to know how to work with that. And that crazy creativity is that, because the heart is not living through all these many moments of affliction all the time. There is a sense of peace that we start to feel because of practice. And when we get a taste of that peace or even of that crazy creativity, even if we want to learn how to work with it, right? It like points us to something that we don't quite know yet. But we have to feel inspired to keep seeking it, right? It feels hard to live right now. But is there a better way? How do we keep inspired, stay inspired to keep looking for that better way? This heart feels like a mess, but the Buddha, he understood something that I don't understand right now. But there's enough interest to keep the teachings in mind, to keep them moving forward, like to live through this beautiful passage. Let not a person revive the past or on the future build their hopes. Right? Isn't that hard? Let it mean not try to fix the past. How many times do we try to fix the past? Or base our sense of well-being on if we get what we want in the future, right? Our hopes about the future. For the past has been left behind and the future has not been reached. Instead, with insight, let them see each presently arisen state. Like that sense of wonder about everything is just arising and passing away. Everything is in motion. Let them know that and be sure of it. Have some confidence, right? That life is in motion, that it's like this right now. Invincibly, unshakably, the deep faith. Today, the effort must be made. Stir some kind of urgency, right? Tomorrow, death may come. You don't know. It's just like this right now. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. No bargain with mortality can keep him and his hordes away. But one who dwells thus ardently, relentlessly, day by night, it is them the peaceful sage has said, who has had a single excellent night. Right? It's that sense of urgency or that to keep the most important thing in mind. So that sense of we don't have to have the deepest faith always, but thankfully there's enough confidence when groups gather like that, that those of us who have little faith or little confidence are supported by those who have stronger confidence, right? That's how faith moves. It starts somewhere and then it deepens. And it deepens in relationship with taking refuge in the movement of the healing movement of spiritual practice. So this teaching of anatta, which I've been weaving them all three together, hopefully it makes sense. There's this wonderful little statement from Sharon Salzberg that I want to read because I think it helps us understand this a little bit better. She says, the Buddhist teaching of anatta means selflessness, which I don't even really like that word selflessness because I think it aligns with some connotations that we have that we're not important. And it's what's important is the arising of this, and that this arises in an interconnected way. But I'll start over here. The Buddhist teaching of anatta means selflessness, but it doesn't mean selflessness like you disappear, or we all become like part of a soup or something like that. The idea is that the way we conceive of ourselves right now tends to be mistaken, isolated, in control, all powerful, sealed off from everybody else. If we really saw how life was, we would see that we're all interconnected. If you look at a tree on one level, you just see a tree, and that is a true level. But you can also look at the tree as the nature of the soil that is nourishing the tree, and the things that affect the soil, like the rainfall, and all the things that affect the rainfall, which we know are pretty vast. You look at the tree and you see its network. It's a combination of all these things relating to one another and these conditions coming together. That's another level. And when we see the tree on that level, we understand to save the tree, we've got to look at some of those conditions, check the soil, check out the rainfall. That's a truer version of the interconnected universe. That doesn't mean you don't also see the tree. Once we understand interconnection, we have to ask ourselves what our responsibility is to one another. And I enjoy that you don't necessarily have to have a spiritual awareness to understand that. Economic study, certainly environmental study, even epidemiology get this. What happens over there will never stay just over there. So how do we treat one another and how do we act in this world? A really beautiful contemplation. Yeah. And this analogy that she was using of a tree and all of the influences that support the tree is a way of pointing to both the absolute and the relative. And so on a relative level, we are people, we are human beings, and what we do and say has an impact on our lives and in the world. And it wouldn't help if I were to walk up to any one of you and you said, hello, and I would say, hello, I am the person, I am this conglomeration of causes and conditions, sometimes regarded as Shelly, but really just empty of sense of self. You'd be like, okay, and you probably wouldn't stay talking to me for very long, right? But for practicality, for functional purposes, I just say, I'm Shelly, right? And that allows me a kind of connection with you, right? In a very brief way, in a very brief moment. A sense of compassion, right, can be alive right there and then. So the relative level is important, right? It's important that we take care of ourselves and take care of each other and learn functional ways to communicate so that we continue to feel a sense of we're in this together, right? And on an absolute level, if we miss something about conditionality, we're really going to miss the essence of the Buddhist path, right? And as students alive in the world and trying to figure things out for ourselves and each other through our personal, through our these moments in the collective that we're living through, it's going to help us so much. It will add that sense of stability that those elder 35-year-olds were feeling after doing several retreats. We're not sort of bouncing around in contention with everything. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt right here, but it means that we are practicing and training in new ways of relating to the way it is right now. So let's just take a minute to sit together and let go of the words. Everybody for your kind attention today. We have a few announcements, I think, from Crystal or Lisa, our program hosts. You want to grab the microphone?
Okay. So what I have here is there's a half-day retreat with Jean Haley, July 26th. That's a Saturday from 1 to 5. And then there's a day-long retreat for the BIPOC community with Stacy McClendon. That's on Saturday, August 9th, 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. And I'll hand this over.
Yeah, and as Shelly mentioned, don't miss next week with Ramesh Saram. He's a real treat. And today from noon until 2, there's a garden work day out in our beautiful garden, but to help maintain it. So anyone is welcome. And if you could help to bring down all the folding chairs to the basement, that would be terrific. And there is time for small groups of, say, 3 to 5 people. It's really a good community practice afterwards to discuss your practice, what you learned today, any questions you might have. So you're welcome to stay for small groups. Anything else, Shelly?
That's it. Thank you so much, Lisa and Crystal. Yeah, and Chelsea back here on audio. Yeah.
Yeah.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.